Celtic and Rangers submitted their European teams last night for the Europa
Yeah.
League. I thought Celtic's in particular was really interesting. It screams to me who are Brendan Rodgers signings and who aren't. Out went Shin Yamada, Inamura, Simpson Pusey and Callum Osmond, just not even in the squad at all.
Yeah, I don't think you need to be Miss Marple to see the clues all over this one, do you? And Brendan is probably doing that quite deliberately, or simply just he's not impressed enough by the standard of the guys that have been brought in to put them in. But I think there's messaging going on there. There usually is with Brendan. He's a clever guy. He thinks about everything he does, everything he says. I mean, I guess it's an eyebrow raiser that it shows the extent of his unhappiness that he's just went like that. Put them in a box and leave them over at Lennoxtown for a while because they're nowhere near ready for Europa League football.
Particularly as well, Keith, when, I mean, there's talk of Anthony Ralston suffering an injury. We know about Alistair Johnson. Simpson Pusey can play right back.
Yeah.
But even so, bombed out.
Yep. It's, you know, as I said, I think X marks the spot with this one, doesn't it? And by the way, this is a man that ended the transfer window with no strikers, and he's left 2 strikers out of the squad.
Yeah.
That's if that's not, you know, sending out a coded message, I don't know what is. But it just sums up the state of things at Celtic. It feels a little bit, and I know, you know, we need to be careful with language, but it feels a little bit like almost a full-scale civil war behind the scenes. You know, and we've been saying for a couple of days now because of this, Daniel, forget Brendan Rodgers, you know, extending and staying around for another 3 years or going, you know, thinking that he's getting close to having a second shot at 10 in a row or anything like that. This is over. And unfortunately, it's going to feel like a messy split, I think, from now to the end of the season. I think that's a real problem for Celtic because it's screaming of unhappiness, and it feels not unlike the situation that Neil Lennon was trying to stay in charge of the season that Rangers, you know, stop Celtic from winning 10 in a row. The mood music around Celtic right now is horrendous.
I mean, we've got a story as well on Record Sport this afternoon that Mike Nicholson is allegedly Michael Nicholson rather. He's the Celtic transfer guru.
No, you mean the invisible chief executive? The guy that gets wheeled out like Santa Claus once a year to do the AGM and then disappears. Michael Nicholson, I'm sorry, but he is coming in for serious criticism, and I'm sure he's a nice guy, but he deserves it because he's not communicating with these Celtic supporters. He's in charge. That's what the title says, Chief Executive Officer. And this transfer window has been pretty much unmitigated disaster.
Yeah.
And he's the guy that's holding the wheel on it, and he's nowhere to be seen.
Well, sorry to jump in, that's what I was going to say. Sorry, go on.
No wonder Celtic fans get frustrated. Are you about to tell me that he's fronted up today?
The rumour is he's doing an interview with Sky Sports tomorrow.
Well, isn't that fascinating? Because what did we get yesterday? Kevin Thelwell, under heat, feeling the pressure. He decides, at least, I'll give Michael Nicholson his credit, if he's doing it with an independent broadcaster like Sky, then that's good news. He might get asked some proper questions. Kevin Thelwell probably wrote the questions that he was asked by Rangers' internal media platform yesterday. He was never going to get grilled. He was never going to, you know, be made to shuffle around and wriggle around in his seat. But the very fact that he felt inclined to do it is a sign for me, and I'm old enough in this business to see these signs. It raises a red flag. It tells me that Kevin Thelwell feels that he's on the spot now. He's under pressure, and he's going to have to respond, and he has to justify himself, and he has to come out and speak to people and communicate with people. But that's a surefire sign that he's feeling he's you know, the collar on his shirt tighten around the neck a little bit. I noticed that, you know, the kind of top note from his speech or his statement or his Politburo interview is basically that Russell Martin needs to do better. So, yeah, I'm getting heat. Here's a hot potato. I'll fling it at the manager and you better deal with this. Yeah. Michael Nicholson now gets a chance If you think that that's going to happen, good, not before time. It's outrageous that he hasn't spoken and communicated with the Celtic supporters. And again, I do feel there's a little element here of, after the horse has bolted, Celtic fans aren't going to be won over by anything that Michael Nicholson says now. Maybe if he'd tried communicating a little bit earlier, then they might have been able to understand or seen it from a different point of view, or maybe, be given an insight into why these deals were falling over, what happened with who. For example, we saw on transfer deadline day, the move that Celtic were making for the Chelsea striker.
David Fofana.
David Fofana. And what I've heard over the last 24 hours is that it wasn't Fofana that pulled the plug on that and chose Charlton over Celtic. It was the other way around, that Celtic made an initial inquiry after doing their due diligence, had concerns that he might not be the right fit. And they pulled out of that one at the 11th hour. Now, I don't know if that's right or if it's not, or if maybe somebody at Celtic is wishing to get that out there. I'm not sure, right? And it'll be interesting to hear what Michael Nicholson said. But it's a perfect example of how to control the narrative. We're in the newspaper game. We're in the stories game. If Celtic wanted it known, or if that was really the case, why weren't Celtic briefing? Why wasn't the message getting out there? Look, guys, this looks bad, but, we've got concerns about this guy. We don't think he was going to be a good fit off the pitch. And if that was the case, get the story out there, communicate with people. Celtic fans were just sitting there, sitting on their hands, getting angrier, more frustrated, and more incredulous at the fact that this club is sitting on a mountain of cash and seems so reluctant to spend any of it. Yeah. And whatever way Michael Nicholson now approaches it or tries to slice it and dice it, he's never going to change the fact that that is the fact. And that Celtic fans who are pumping money into that club hand over fist, they expect to see that money that they're investing in their club being spent to make their team better on the pitch. But, here we are, crisis management now, because everybody's raging, because Celtic are probably in a position where they have to concede that they've made an absolute backside of this. Out he comes. I wonder, he might as well come out with a gun to his head, because that's so, opposed to his natural MO. He doesn't want to communicate. He wants to sit in the background. But this time he's got no choice, because they've made such a terrible mess of it. Yeah. And now you've got a manager openly rebelling, because that's what that squad list is. It's an open rebellion against the board. This is what you've done to me. I'm not interested.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. An absolute catastrophe out the window. We've got plenty of comments coming in. If you're watching at home, you want to get involved, not just in Celtic, Rangers, or your club, Scotland as well. We will talk about Scotland and their massive clash with Denmark tomorrow night. Let me throw a couple of these comments.
I know, Dan, I've just spent the first 10 minutes on here telling you how important this is out here. Can everybody just turn their attention away from the bonfire in their own back garden and take it over? Because this is going to get really important.
Aye, I know. Well, there's a couple of comments about Celtic I should throw at you. David says, Pusey allegedly refused to play for the B team to get match fitness. Don't know if that's true, obviously. Hoopsaholic says, Yamada was the only one that might have made the European squad, but he hasn't done a thing to show it. Marzuno says the squad is either deliberate downsizing or incompetence. Both are equally bad. David Gray simply says, go on yourself, Keith, telling it like it is. And once again, Marzuno says, I'm beginning to think Paul Tisdale isn't a real doctor.
I wouldn't want to get diagnosed by him if he was.
That's a very good point, eh?
Listen, it is a shambles. There's no other way. There's no way of sugarcoating it, dressing it up. And I say that as a guy. And how many times, and people were calling me out, and they're rightly so, Daniel, because I said consistently, look, Celtic will spend. Everybody needs to calm down a little bit. They always spend. They will spend significant sums because they always spend significant sums. And this summer they've just decided, I can't be bothered with it. And it almost, do you know what? If you were looking at it with a sort of an old head and a cynical eye, it actually starts to feel like they're almost goading Brendan Rodgers. They're almost jabbing him in the ribs with a stick. And it's incomprehensible.